For more, joining us today, we have with us Dr. Jung-yeop, a research fellow from the Sejong Institute. Welcome back to the show today.
My pleasure.
So the original incident between South Korea and Japan took place in late December last year, and you would have thought that this kind of incident would have been resolved by now, but instead it's continued to escalate into what can only be described as a diplomatic incident. Why are the two sides continuing to argue over this, and why does there seem to be that there is no resolution in sight?
I think this case shows that complexity of the relations between Korea and Japan. Since now everyone is talking about the differences between Korea and Japan, let's talk about some similarities. Korea and Japan are the fully developed democracies in Northeast Asia with well-developed economies, and they are the two main allies of the United States in the region. And we have also same threat from the North Korea, and we also facing the challenges from China. However, we have these historical issues that will never reconcile the differences between two countries. So I think that it's not only that these military issues, but all the issues are inevitably linked to the historical issues in the earlier part of 20th century. That is why everyone is interpreting the issue not only as a military issues, but also to the history and the political issues. That is why it's very difficult to reach a solution among two countries' working level officials.
It seems that Japan was the one who accused South Korea of the warship radar lock onto the Japanese warplane, and since then Japan has continued to make accusations against the South Korea, and it seems to be inflaming what's already a sensitive issue. There has been some interpretation that this is actually the Abe administration deliberately taking this hardline stance to boost their approval ratings as the dispute plays well with their conservative base within Japan. And perhaps that we are seeing some side of that working, because Abe's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's approval rating for this month jumped up 6% to over 50 percentage points now, to 50% now, which some have said is because of this dispute. Do you think that could be the reason why this issue continues to be unresolved?
Every politician wants to take advantage of every issue that might be working favorable to him. However, in this issue, it is evident that South Korean naval ship was on a mission for the humanitarian rescue of the North Korean ships. And while South Korean naval ships are on the sea in the rescue mission, there's a low altitude flybys by the Japanese plane. And Japanese self-defense force now argue that South Korean warship uses that missile targeting radar against the Japanese airplane. And South Korean military denied it. So I think it's a simple matter. There's nothing much that you can take advantage in terms of the politics. However, in Japan, Korea-Japan issues also a very hot debated issue among the public, like in Korea. So I think Prime Minister Abe, whether he won it or he did not want, but this issue is the very hotly debated issues in Japan. That is why this kind of issue helped him in his approval ratings, but we don't know whether he intentionally used this issue for his approval ratings.
So the natural next question becomes, how does this issue become resolved? How do we end this dispute? Because either side don't seem to be taking any steps to back down. There has been some question that the US might get involved because, as you said, the US is South Korea and Japan's closest ally. But so far there's been no word from the US. What do you think, Washington, how do you think they're viewing this situation?
So the first thing that two countries need to do is not to escalate anymore. So now we heard all the news that Japanese government was talking about the Dokdo is their territory, and also they are indicating that they are pulling off from the military exchange between Korea and Japan. So that's unnecessary escalation from the incident happened in December. So if two countries agree to not to escalate anymore, then as time goes by, then they can reach some kind of solutions to technically and scientifically solve the issues. And if there's any misunderstanding of any sort of kind, then two countries can resolve it. So I think that the U.S. involvement in this case is first not to escalate the situation anymore, so the two countries can have some kind of meetings with a much cooler mind than now.
And perhaps Washington is already taking steps because the U.S. ambassador to South Korea, Harry Harris, met with the South Korea's defense minister on Monday, and he's, of course, an ex-Navy man. Although the details of their conversation was not disclosed, they are believed to have discussed this incident. Do you think Washington will want to get involved in this, though?
Washington will not publicly get involved in this situation because Washington knows that this is not only the military issues, but also the historical and political issue between Korea and Japan. So it's not a winning issue for United States to get involved in the first place. But so I think that the U.S. as an important ally of two countries, their first request would be not to escalate more, and the two countries need to sit down and solve this problem reasonably. So I think that there might be some unofficial request or suggestion from the U.S. government, but there will be no public statement from the United States to get involved in this situation.
And finally, do you think it can be resolved quickly, or do you think this is going to be further drawn out over the next few weeks or even months, maybe?
If two countries agree that it's not in their interest to escalate anymore, then the situation is going to calm down soon. But the technical resolution of the situation in December, whether South Korean naval ship really use its missile targeting radar against the Japanese airplane, can be resolved in the future. But since Japanese government is refusing to have a talk about this issue right now, then I think it'll take more time to get resolved this issue. But the first more important thing is that not to escalate anymore in diplomatic area.
Now let's shift focus because Ambassador Harry Harris, he not only met with the defense minister, but he also met with the foreign minister Kang Kyung-hwa, and it's unclear exactly what they talked about again, but with both ministers, Harry Harris is expected to have talked about the current negotiations that are going on between South Korea and the US over hosting US forces in South Korea. Now that the US government shutdown is over, there are expectations that the negotiations over this issue will continue. How do you see the current situation?
So the problem now is that there are differences in how much South Korean government should contribute for the cost sharing. So far, there's South Korean government and the United States agreed to pay in lump sum in every year, which is near the billion US dollars. However, now with the President Trump assuming the office in 2017, that one of his pledges was that he's going to have U.S. allies to pay more for the so-called services that U.S. is provide to its allies. However, having the relationship as allies is not a service provided by one country to the other. But the problem is that United States has much bigger power than any other of its allies. So now I think that we might have to pay more than the previous deals. However, the U.S. request about having the negotiation every year would be changed because since South Korean government is paying lump sum to the cost sharing, there is no need to negotiate every year. So I think that two countries might end up with paying more from Korean side, and U.S. is going to agree that the negotiation is by every 3 years or 5 years, as in the previous deals.
One more topic I'd like to get your thoughts on before we go as well. So let's go back to the Japanese Prime Minister Abe, who gave his annual policy speech on Monday, where he openly seemed to court North Korea to engage in talks and said he would act decisively to make it happen. Now, Japan is a member of the six-party talks that agreed with the original denuclearization agreement for North Korea previously, but their role seems to have been sidelined somewhat in recent years. What do you think Abe wants by engaging with Kim Jong-un, and do you think North Korea will respond?
So I think there are two main reasons why Prime Minister Abe was very active on these issues. First thing is that because of the security issues, Japanese people are very concerned about North Korea's missile capability, which already had an ability to reach in Japan with its missiles and nuclear weapons. So I think that as a Japanese political leader, that Prime Minister Abe has to show that he's very closely monitoring the situation and Japan is involved in resolving North Korean nuclear issues. Second, Japan has very keen eye on its abductee issues when it comes to its negotiation with North Korea. So Japan has security issues. At the same time, Japan has these abductee issues in the past. So as a Japanese prime minister, he needs to show that he's taking care of this issue as well. So I think that is why Japanese government and the prime minister himself is very actively seeking an opportunity to take part in the negotiation with North Korea.
But what is North Korea's stance on Japan? I mean, do they also want to engage with Japan, or will Japan continue to be framed as North Korea's enemy as such?
In the past, Kim Jong-un's father, Kim Jong-il, already met Prime Minister Go Izumi before to solve the abductee issues. However, as there was no progress, two countries' relations got cold, and also North Korea's nuclear development made it very difficult for two countries to reconcile its differences. So I think that if North Korea's nuclear issues has shown some progress with the United States and South Korea, there might be some room for Japan and North Korea can improve their relations.
Do you think there is still this possibility of Prime Minister Abe maybe even meeting with Kim Jong-un, holding a summit at some point?
I think that if conditions met, there's much more willingness from Japanese side, and there's also some kind of willingness from North Korea, because now North Korea can use this reparation money from Japan for its economy. So I think there's a mutual interest for the two countries leaders to meet in the future.
That's what we have time for. Thank you for coming in today and sharing us your insights.
Thank you.